Hey, do you remember in Germany when Bagnaia was 91 points outside of the title lead? It's now 10. Welcome back to Motorsport 101. Ladies, gentlemen, friends outside the binary, we have a championship fight on our hands, everybody. Oh, boy.
This is different.
Well. Just when we were going into this round. Oh, by the way, this is episode 397 in the Motorsport 101 podcast. I'm your host, Trey Harrison. Let me just get the intro out of the way. We all said going into Aragon that this was a bogey round for Quartararo. He had never finished on the podium in all his years at Aragon. He doesn't like this track at all. We didn't think there'd be a 20-point swing coming out of this round, meaning that now the top three in the championship are covered by 17 points.
One would say it's not entirely on Fabio in this case.
No, quite the opposite. But it's shall we say MotoGP and Lemony Snicket's series of unfortunate events, and we'll get into how we got to this point briefly. But shall we say, first of all, to our esteemed panel. First up, Mr. Cam Buckley. Hello, sir.
Hello, everyone. I came in from work earlier. I can barely walk. I have a Mexican Coke. It's all good. Cane sugar for life.
I love that the Mexican Coke is doing a lot of the heavy lifting here.
It is doing all of the heavy lift. It is the single thread of my sanity remaining.
We will go with the Mexican Coke. Sugar cane for all your life supporting needs. Also with us, RJ O'Connell. Hello, sir.
If y'all thought Circuit of the Americas last year was bumpy, I'm gonna be heading to Sebring by the time you read this. That, of course, famous for being the bumpiest of bumpy tracks on purpose, and people like it that way. I cannot imagine that would be a very pleasant experience on a motorcycle, though.
No, oh God, like bikes, Sebring, no, 1,000 times no, to say the least. But welcome to MotoGP's episode at Aragon, what I like to call the start of the Gauntlet. The Gauntlet 2, Gauntlet Harder, I should say, after we talked about it with IndyCar earlier this year. We have 5, count them, 5 MotoGP episodes coming up over the next 6 weeks. By the time we get through that gauntlet, we'll probably have a really good idea who will end up being world champion, because that's 5 out of the remaining 6 races left on the MotoGP calendar. And boy, probably, since Assen, I would say, probably the biggest world championship flashpoint we've had so far. Probably for the whole of the 2022 season, in fact, because Fabio Quartararo's race lasted about 20 seconds. And he was unfortunately the unfortunate victim of a collision with... Wait, that's Marc Marquez's music. We did not think Marc Marquez was going to come back this soon, but he did. That's funny. By the time we released episode 396, talking about, the fact that we were foreshadowing what was going to happen and, how Marquez plays it for the rest of the year, we were all wrong. Badly wrong. And it showed, to say the least, that he ended up being back just 4 days later. Goes to show we got it badly wrong. But we'll talk about Marc Marquez and his return to Grand Prix motorcycle racing. And we had a lot to go through on that one. Also, we had a fantastic fight for the win. It's a familiar tale. It's Francesco Bagnaia versus Enea Bastianini. And this time there was more than one overtake involved. We'll talk about that. And we'll talk about a strange one here, folks. Arguably the most high-profile MotoGP incident in terms of mainstream media attention, I think, since Sepang of 2015. Like, CNN reported this story, which is something that I never thought I would see in a million years. CNN reporting on Moto3. Yeah, that was a real thing. So we'll get into how a crazy incident in pit lane on Saturday qualifying went viral, believe it or not. So we get into all of that over the next 40 minutes or so. But before we get into that, let's get into where you can find us. We're on youtube.com/motorsport101. We're on facebook.com/motorsport101. We're on Twitter at motorsport_101. If you want to follow us personally, you can at Harrison101HD, at RJ O'Connell, and at CBuckley917. Look out for the guy with the bio that says, "Man too angry to die." It's well worth the follow.
Hey, I am also a special stage Route 11 enthusiast.
It's a good habit. It's a good enthusiasm to have. We're on Instagram at Motorsport101pod. You can check us out on there for content updates and all that good stuff. Also, we can catch all of that content on our website, motorsport101.com, including reviews of not only this race at MotoGP, but hopefully by the time this goes up, a extended special called "What's in a Super License? The Colton Herta Problem." Yeah, I thought I'd just take all those debates about Formula One super license and deconstruct and break it all down culturally, mathematically, and in terms of driver evaluation, all in one great big long form piece.
Putting it together and putting it in a bowl like a great dish of quick serve fusion cuisine.
Oh, yeah.
And paid $15 for.
Yep, pizza in a bowl, etc. All of that will be in a big long form piece by the time this goes out, probably. Keep an eye out for it on the blog section of motorsport101.com. And if you really like us, you can back us financially at Motorsport 101 on Patreon on there. You can back us there. $5 gets you early access to all of our episodes before they go out, and there's some other perks on there as well. Shout out to Jake Myers, who was our latest backer that came through on Monday. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Thank you very much. Should we get into MotoGP? Let's talk about MotoGP and their Grand Prix of Aragon.
Round 2. Fight! Francesco Bagnaia, Enea Bastianini, another head-to-head showdown at Motorland Aragon. The two future Ducati factory teammates were a mile away from the rest of the field, and despite an early missed skirmish from Enea earlier on, Francesco Bagnaia was leading into the final lap, and this time Enea Bastianini made a clutch pass at turn 6, with Bagnaia admitting afterwards that he just was, quote, taking too many risks, taking second place. But you never guess, given that he'd finished just 42 thousandths of a second behind Bastianini, who took his 4th win of the season. But with Fabio Quartararo taken out just 20 seconds into the race by riding at the back of Marc Marquez, more on that later, Bagnaia's second was still good enough to reduce his deficit in the championship from 30 points down to 10 with 5 races left, and Aleix Espargaro not far behind them, now 17 points behind at third. So, fellas, is Francesco Bagnaia and his getting away from the cop speed the new favorite for the World Championship despite finishing second on the day?
He's no longer undefeated since becoming a criminal.
The Crims caught up with him. Special Officer Enea Bastianini laid out the arrest. He had Marcel Jacobs behind him with handcuffs. He's the only man that can keep up.
They told him Francesco's the one who leaked the GTA 6 code.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
We've just dated this podcast. Oh, man.
Oh, damn it.
What are you talking about? With how long that game's going to take to make it, you could have like 5 more leaks between now and then.
Oh, yeah. It's going to come out sometime in 2030, whenever the hell GTA 5 stops making the money.
God, I love my PlayStation 7.
I know. It's great, isn't it? It's hard for me at this point not to argue that Bagnaia is not title favorite now. And I was worried in the last episode. I mean, I literally wrote this down in the show notes where I said the only thing that concerned me about Bagnaia was that the old Ducati catchphrase. Cam, you know the one.
Death, taxes, Ducati tucks the front.
Yeah,
there it is. He took the points. Or if Bagnaia's word is to be believed, and I haven't got a reason not to believe him. He took the points when Enea passed him. I was like, oh, so he is thinking about the championship now then, was one of the thoughts that came into my head. I just thought, well, Pecco's just going to ride all out and see what he can get. He actually gave it some thought and thought, you know what? Plus 20 is good enough here. And I think that was a very wise decision if it was true he was taking that many risks. As Enea Bastianini was, I think he certainly was the faster man on the day. It's just, we all know with MotoGP, it's stupidly hard to pass at the moment. And I mean, Cam, you saw it. It was a fascinating race in the sense of Enea was just outgunned him tactically on this one. It was just, he showed his hand early with the final corner and it didn't work out. And he got him at turns, I think it was turn 7, actually. I think I made a mistake. I wrote 6 down. It was actually turn 7, Cam. But
yeah, it was pretty even between them, honestly. But you could see, I mean, Bastianini's bike was practically over the limit, pretty much all the way around the lap. You could see it squirming into the corner entry. Pretty much every fast turn, there was a couple where he looked like he was going down and gathered the bike back up. But I think the smartest thing that Enea did is he drilled him at a place where he hadn't tried before and where he could kind of bet on himself for the rest of the lap. Because by squaring off a couple of corners later in the lap, it made it very difficult for Bagnaia to actually get back to him. Because really, they were pretty much evenly matched, but faster in different areas of the circuit.
Yeah, it's weird because I just don't think Bagnaia was prepared for a fight in the end because, I mean, can you blame him? He's not been overtaken in a race for 5 rounds pretty much. It's just been, he's barely had to work hard at the front of the field. He's not had to be in a real dogfight and they're not going to be around very often with the state of the sport how it is right now. But, I mean, the last 2 rounds between them, 8 thousandths of a second net. After an hour and a half of racing, they are virtually identical.
Yeah,
it is incredible.
I mean, that is going to be a very interesting teammate dynamic next year because it could either go really, really well or really, really poorly. Especially with 2 reasonably fiery personalities.
They are hotheads. They are not a part. They are both not part of the. One of them is not part of the VR46 Academy we know and love, because Enea is not one of those dudes. I always love surprising people, telling people that you do realize Enea is not a VR46 guy, right? And
people just assume all riders with an Italian name must have come through there.
To be fair, it's a fair assumption, but yeah, like they are fiery personalities. Definitely more Enea than Francesco, I would argue.
Oh, yeah.
Also, Enea is losing his crew chief at the end of the season because he's going to KTM next year.
Good luck with that, bud.
Yeah, good luck to him. My first wasn't my first response on that one. But, RJ, you saw it in November. What did you make of it, buddy?
Oh, that was... I admittedly, I had to catch up through the highlights, but I heard that this was good, so I wanted to tune in and catch the highlights of this race. It's just, the first lap of this was a bit of a mess. Obviously, you hate to see Quartararo hit the deck like that, that early into the race when it was already looking like it was going to be a struggle for him to be competitive at this circuit. So that's not ideal. Glad that he's okay. I mean, that way I don't have to feel guilty about this championship being bunched up. But
and I'm not so sure if it even was because a level with the both of you. When's the last time it looked like Quartararo was able to challenge for a win?
Been a hot minute.
Yeah, I mean,
obviously the Yamaha is not the poverty bikes that everybody else on a Yamaha is making it look like. Shout out to Cal Crutchlow, points on return.
I say Cal Crutchlow showed up this weekend and made Darren Binder, and I'm sorry to say this, Frankie Morbidelli look like scrubs.
Yeah, great job from Cal Crutchlow to fill in and finish 13th. As you may not know, he's filling in for Dovi's ride for the rest of the season in the satellite RNF Yamaha team. 13th, first race back. Good performance from the man.
I just think the big dynamic that has shifted is that we know Ducati was a bit late to the party with this bike, in that it's really more of a GP 21.5, getting everything to work together properly. Since they've kind of gotten their front tire wear under control, no one's been able to see them. Miles clear the best bike in the field.
Nobody took the front.
Nobody, and it still has that tendency, because I think every bike in MotoGP at this point is busted in some way.
Yeah.
But the Ducati seems to have the least vices, fewest vices. Me, grammar, good.
Mm-hmm.
When everything is when it's firing on all cylinders, and then Aleix Espargaro waving from the back. He's only 17 points behind.
He's done just enough to keep himself in the mix, and that was a very well-rode third this past weekend. He was in a tight fight with Brad Binder all the way through.
The
Lord, Brad Binder in fourth, by the way. Like, I continue to say it. He's the most underrated bike rider in the world today. The man is doing the work of himself, the Lord. He's a reminder, Brad Binder is seventh in the championship on a KTM.
A pile of garbage.
The man is a monster. I don't care what you tell me. He's doing the work of the Lord on that.
How did Miguel Oliveira win on this thing in Mandalika?
Yeah, let's not forget that too. I mean, Aleix Espargaro came through with 2 laps to go, past Brad Binder, got third place, 16 very precious points. His 6th podium of the year, by the way, for Aleix Espargaro. Only 17 points back now. I wouldn't even completely rule out Bastianini if the wrong man tucks the front at minus 48 with 5 to go. Bastianini thinks it's too much to make up. I don't believe him. Like, how can anybody say that 48 points is too much to make up when Bagnaia has taken 81 points out of Quartararo's lead in the last 5 rounds?
Well, because 20 just got dropped for not so great reasons.
Yeah. It's not ideal, but he's lost on average 16 points per round over the last 5 races.
Yikes.
So I cannot sit there in good faith and say that 48 for Bastianini is too much to make up, because we know he's got the upside to win a race, which is...
it's that upside, but where's the floor?
That's the problem. Like, Bastianini's floor is 10th place. And that's not going to cut it at this point now. He needs to be on the podium week in, week out. And he's not been able to really prove he can do that yet. This was back-to-back podiums, which is a good sign. He needs to run another 3 or 4 of these and see if he can bully Bagnaia into a mistake. Because that's the only way he's going to win the championship from this far back now. But he's at least keeping his name in the conversation, which is definitely something that's valuable. I would say, but minus 17 covering the top 5. We've got 5 rounds to go. It's Motegi next weekend.
If it happens,
fingers crossed. We know there are a lot of typhoons hitting mainland
It's
Japan.
one typhoon, but it's a pretty big one. Typhoon Amandal made landfall this week. It looks like it lost a little bit of steam, but still, there are people without power, people without homes, some people lost their life, unfortunately, some were injured. We'll see if it happens. You know, it's looking like it may well happen because Motegi is further along the east and up north than, say, a place like Autopolis or Okayama in the southwest region. And by then, this should have lost a lot of steam, but I expect it to be wet when and if it does happen. Hoping for good things.
Hoping for good things, and of course, our thoughts go out to everybody in Japan. Hopefully, it's not going to be as bad as feared. All the best to those guys out there. Whether we have a race or not, we'll have to remain and see. Hopefully, it'll be safe enough for us to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Pardon me. But fingers crossed on that one. But another fascinating fight between the two future Ducatis there. Again, just we've had the 2 closest finishes in MotoGP history in the last 3 years. It's in back-to-back races with the same two protagonists only swapped around. It is crazy just how evenly matched those two are at the moment. Fantastic racing, all told.
Marc's back!
Marc Marquez is back!
Yeah!
Yes!
It looked like things were going great until they weren't. So he was out there. He liked testing the new Calet's aluminum or aluminium swing arm. He pulled off another remarkable save on his good arm. He was looking good to make Q2 if it wasn't for a late yellow in the session. But then in the race, first of all, he gets a rocket start, right? And he's up in about the top 6, like a couple corners in. But then he wobbles at turn 6. Fabio Quartararo drives right in the rear of the bike. He crashes, he hits the deck. The part of Fabio's fairing gets stuck in Marquez's bike. That damages Marquez's whole shot device. And as he's trying to look behind him just to let everybody know, like, hey, I'm riding around a limp bike, he does not see Takaki Nakagami riding up behind him. They collide. Nakagami hits the deck. And Marquez has come back, effectively last one lap. Not ideal, but what'd y'all make of the return of Marc Marquez?
Well, he's still box office. I just didn't know if we were expecting him to be this box office.
Oh, dear.
Bit of a mixed bag. He looked a little bit like his old self. He can, in his own words, he can make shapes on the bike again. And he was making the shapes. I mean, that left arm elbow save was classic Marc. It was an FP4.
Yes.
Stupendous save on the good arm. Decent pace, was generally the fastest Honda. Just beaten in qualifying by Taka. You know, again, that late yellow flag. He was on a lap that was probably good enough to jump him into Q2.
Yeah, unfortunately, Paul Espargaro crashed on his final hot lap in Q1, put out a yellow in that area, and obviously that means all laps are going to be taken away because you can't go at full racing speed on a local yellow. So, yeah, that was the end of the session, effectively.
Repsol Honda taketh, and Repsol Honda taketh away.
Yeah, so Mark had to qualify 13th, and obviously that's what led to the chaos that unfolded afterwards. I mean, Cam, what did you make of it all?
Right, to take off my 93 gear. It was a nasty incident. It was, Marc probably pushing a bit too hard on a cold tire, not unlike those in front of him, because a couple of riders did have to back off as they were offline and just spun the rear tire up. Unfortunately, when Marc had his moment, he spun the rear tire up, had to gather up the bike. Fabio was right there, and he just had nowhere to go. Marc's mistake, but ultimately, I would class it a racing incident. Pretty much everyone agreed it was a racing incident. It just sucks that he got caught up, that Fabio got caught up in Marc's mistake, and that had major championship implications. And then it got worse. Now, there's been a lot of discussion regarding ride height devices.
I think it's a very short discussion.
A very short discussion, unless you're Ducati, in which you are doing everything. You are paying off anyone you can call to keep this thing in play. And unfortunately, because these automatically activate, they work at a certain speed, and the bike basically automatically lowers. With the chunk of Fabio's bike stuck in Marquez's swing arm, when the whole shot device engaged after a couple of corners where the bike, Marc said the bike felt okay, it engaged, it pitched him left right into Taka.
Oh, so that's what did it. That is horrible.
Yeah. I mean, effectively, it locked the bike in place and locked it, basically crabbing left. Marc is looking down, trying to figure out what's going on with his swing arm. And Taka basically just gets launched off his bike because It's dragging Marc's rear tire and it's sending him left.
Is there any justifiable reason left for these devices?
Ducati can't win without them. That's their argument. And the big thing is the terrible thing that actually the thing that might come out of this, if they get banned on safety grounds, it's in the hands of FIM and MotoGP, not the Manufacturers Association.
Yeah, because this has been the big political sticking point of this of this discussion about ride height devices. Now we know the front ride height device that Ducati was testing out this year and that was going to be ran through probably more likely in the following years has already been banned for next year. But there's been, I mean, look, we've made it very clear on this show over the course of this season that we don't think the ride height devices serve much purpose. It's gone too far. It was one thing when they were only being used off the line, and it actually was safer to do that off the start line in races, keeping front wheels down and whatnot. It's taking the piss now. Like the fact it's being used in corners, left, right, and center. It's what's probably been the fundamental reason as to why the racing hasn't been as good overall this season. And if it's now getting to the point where if they fail, it's genuinely dangerous, which I think there is an argument you can make regarding this now, because we've seen this with Marquez.
It's not like we go almost every race, there's at least one ride height device failure.
Yeah, we've now, and we saw it with Maverick Vinales in Germany. We saw it with Alex Marquez in Germany as well, and now we've seen one with Marc where it's failed, and now it's caused a nasty incident which could have been far worse for Taka. Taka keeps dodging bullets, by the way. I mean, holy shit! It's the
Didn't so much dodge this one. He did have surgery today due to tendon damage in his hand.
Yeah, he will be touch and go for Motegi this weekend if we have a race on, because
it's a good thing he got that contract extension, because he was not about to miss what could have been his last race in front of his home crowd as a MotoGP rider, if not for that.
Yeah, no kidding. He was declared unfit after the medical check, which means he automatically has to be checked on Thursday before the Grand Prix weekend starts. So we'll have to wait and see. As Cam says, he had surgery from good old Dr. Mir this morning. He'll be touch and go whether he'll be fit for Motegi this weekend. We'll have to wait and see. But thankfully, everybody else got out of the way because he fell onto a live track, and that was a very scary one. Thankfully, everybody got out of the way in time, because that could have been nasty.
That could have been real bad.
Yeah, amazingly, not the first time I've said that about Taka this season, which is scary in its own right. But ban these fucking ride height devices. This is getting ridiculous now. Honestly, that's 2 bullets dodged on the nastiness of these devices failing, and Fabio had a nasty one as well. He could tell it knocked the wind out of his sails when he fell off his bike.
He had two because then, after being picked up on the scooter, the guy riding the scooter on the way back to the pits crashed
into another bike. Thankfully, Fabio still had his helmet on. Otherwise, he said it could have been much worse. Marshall was actually apparently quite badly hurt off this crash. Thankfully, only minor injuries. But they crashed on the way back to the pit lane too. So when it rains, it pours for Fabio. Not only have you had your title lead cut by 2/3, not only have you had a nasty crash of abrasions all over your chest because his levers ripped open when he hit the deck. Another scary one. What is it with Fabio and his levers?
What is it with Fabio and Aragon? This place, it's cursed.
It's a curse for him. And then, of course, he crashes on the way back to pit lane. Absolutely crazy stuff. And it's a damn shame as well, because people have asked me about this and saying, well, Dre, is there a possibility that Marquez might skip a round or two? I would say, yeah, there's a possibility. I mean, the whole point of this for Marquez is not only developing the 2023 Honda going forward, it's also just to get the muscle strength back in his arm again to be able to go a full race distance. And now he's just lost an opportunity to be able to do that because of a freak incident. Which is
I don't think he will be. I don't think he will be missing races because this is his rehab. He has to take the pain because there's no other bike he can ride, production bike or otherwise, that's going to rebuild the muscle in his arm like a MotoGP bike is going to. And there's no weights you can lift. He just has to take the pain.
That's like a really interesting thing. It's just like all the forearm curves in the world. That's not going to help you the way that thrashing around a prototype 1000cc motorcycle, the way that's going to put muscles back in your forearms, pal.
Right.
Like this, seriously, like we should get some gym bros on some motorcycles, like some heavyweight motorcycles, and just have them thrash these bikes around the way MotoGP riders do. I mean, I'm sure they all have access to Suzuki Hayabusas around them.
Yeah, we're getting Bron Breakker out of the WWE on a Suzuki Hayabusa and sending him around Motegi next week, just for shits and giggles.
Does his girlfriend have infected gauged earrings?
No, but his uncle is being eased back into WWE programming. As noted Shoney's restaurant proprietor Scott Steiner.
As you do. Never thought you'd see that one coming back, but yeah, it's a shame that the excitement of Marc Marquez's sudden comeback was curtailed by a nasty incident there. Speaking of nasty incidents,
yeah, let's talk about Moto3. Izan Guevara won to move 32 points clear of Sergio Garcia. Gas running 1-2 in the championship, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about a Q1 incident involving the Mats Racing team, that is Sterol Garda Husqvarna Mats, and KTM Racing Ajo. Specifically, two Mats Racing team mechanics and Adrian Fernandez, not the Mexican IndyCar driver of yesteryear, but the Spanish MotoGP rider of the Ajo KTM team. Two mechanics from the Mats Racing team deliberately tried to stop Fernandez from going out on the track in the Q1 session. The incident was investigated by MotoGP, and the two mechanics were fined €2,000 and given a 2-race suspension, which has been deferred to later rounds because, well, COVID protocols and all.
Immigration and all that too, yeah.
Max Biaggi, the owner of the Mats Racing team, the Mats from which the Mats Racing team is derived, put out a statement calling this unacceptable behavior. We publicly apologize to the Tech 3 Racing team and Adrian Fernandez, an unsolicited, dangerous action that cannot be justified in any way by our code of ethics. Those responsible will be appropriately punished. Now, what do you make of this? That this has to jump the shark over everything else in the lower categories?
Oh my God. I saw this live in real time, and we were startled on our Discord server as to how this played out. We were immediately just like, well, what the fuck is that? And like I said, I've never seen anything like it in bike racing. And then Matt Oxley, the fantastic journo for Motorsport Magazine, backed this up by saying, yeah, I've been covering bikes for 35 years. I've never seen that happen before. This is
he would know.
Yeah, and he would know. He's seen everything you can see in bike racing. I've
seen mechanics of racing teams blocking off camera people from getting a look at the car while it's being worked on in the garage. I have never seen mechanics try and sabotage. This is like something out of this is some Disney Pixar's Cars kind of shit.
Right.
Imagine, if you will, during last year's title finale, a couple Mercedes mechanics just run down and just stand in front of Max's car in the pits.
There'd be uproar.
It would be the end of the world.
It would be World War III. It would be DEFCON 4 on social media if that was to ever happen between those two during that title fight. I mean, like I said, CNN reported this story. Like Autosport.com. This was genuinely mainstream news in places that never cover MotoGP, let alone a Moto3 incident on a Saturday.
And this is during a period of national mourning in the United Kingdom. Y'all have a busy news cycle.
Yeah, like, holy shit, Queen's dead, funeral, etc. was literally 12 hours ago as we record this. But yeah, this was like legitimately covered by CNN and other mainstream news outlets because this is such a unicorn. Look, I can't argue. Like, MotoGP's punishment, I think, is more than fair. Like, look, for better or for worse, MotoGP mechanics are not paid as much as you think they get paid. Finding them for €2,000 is actually going to put a dent in their wallet, which is what they should be getting. Because, jokes aside, this was extremely dangerous. And
I say they effectively grabbed the front of his bike and actually caused him to stall.
Yeah. Like, he stalled the bike, and yeah, as a result, Fernandez did miss an opportunity to go out to set a final qualifying run in Q1. This was nasty work, and not only was it extremely dangerous, it's incredibly cynical. It's intentional foul play. And
imagine, if you will, Hungary qualifying 2007, except instead of being Alonso in the pits, it's Ferrari. It's Raikkonen pulled into the McLaren pits.
Right. It would be front page news, and yeah, not ideal. It's nasty work across the board. It's cynical.
Romano Fenati squeezing the dude's brake handle on track was wild.
Oh yeah,
I mean, it was.
Yeah, it was, and this is up there with that.
I thought Dominic Agerter taking bumps like Kurt Hennig was wild.
Yeah. More on that, most likely, for the Golden Cock nominations later on in the year. But, yeah, Jesus, this is dirty. This is dirty, it's nasty, and there is no place for that behavior in motorsport. None, and I need to stress this enough. That was extremely dangerous. It was cynical. It could have led to multiple people being hurt, and it's embarrassing for the sport that this happened.
You want to run out into the path of a racing motorcycle?
Are you stupid? And the only question mark I've got beyond this now, really, at this point is, are you telling me that those two dudes completely acted out of their own volition?
Well, if you ask the guy whose name is on the team.
I sincerely hope that Max is being sincere when he's talking about this. Because, are you telling me that these two dudes were out there completely on their own volition? Because I look at this and I go, were they following orders? Did they just feel like, oh, I'm just going to stand out here and block my rival's bike? It's such an outlier, and it's such a weird incident that, like, it makes me think that they had to be following some sort of order from someone within the team. And it makes me very cynical indeed when talking about it, because they're two grown adults, those mechanics. And I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, a lot of people were even more cynical than I was and saying they're adamant that Max was in on this. I don't know. But in any case, this can't run. This absolutely cannot run. To clarify, the 2 race suspensions because of immigration issues. Hence why it's been post-dated to Phillip Island and Thailand as opposed to Motegi because of immigration concerns. Hence why it's been post-dated a little bit. But yeah, I have no problem with MotoGP's punishment on this one. Like, hitting the mechanics where it hurts is probably a good thing rather than the team. And yeah, like, they apparently MotoGP were going to take them away immediately, but then they realized, oh, hang on, like, the bike needs its crew. It would be dangerous to take members of a crew off a motorcycle straight away. So hence why it's another reason why it's a post-dated suspension. But no. Let's not do this.
Pedro Acosta got another win in Moto2, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Rookie of the year in Moto2 on lock.
Yeah, Moto Rookie of the Year. We also got confirmation that the Moto2 grid, the MotoGP grid is complete. Augusto Fernandez is officially announced at Gas this past weekend. So the 2023 grid is now full. We have a complete lineup for next year. So that's the other 2 bits of big bits of news to come out of this
Remy
weekend.
Gardner's not been performing this season, but he still deserved better than just be one and done out of this.
But it's the thing, right? If Pedro Acosta wins the Moto2 title next year, which he's probably going to go into as favourite between him and Ayagura, what are they going to do? Are they going to tell him to stick around in KTM for another year in Moto2?
No, they're going to bring him up to the KTM full factory team in MotoGP, and they're going to chew him up and spit him out in 2 years, tops.
Because that's what I feel like we're balking at the idea that, you know, they're going to get rid of the reigning Moto2 champion as a one and done rider. What do you think Augusto Fernandez is there for next year?
I don't even know, man. Like, KTM's rider management is just... They get all this great... They have all these great riders in all three classes, seemingly every year. And it goes great in Moto2 and Moto3. And they get up to the top level, and they're shit.
And they've got 2 teams. So what's the excuse? They've got 2 teams.
Double the pain.
And you've signed those 2 guys there, and Augusto Fernandez feels like another seat filler for Acosta for 2024. That's
How
what
the hell is Augusto Fernandez a bench warmer?
A good rider, a very good rider by all accounts. You know, he's championship leader for a reason. He's improved massively this year. He was arguably good enough for MotoGP a couple of years ago, I would argue, when he was still at Mark VDS. But I find the whole KTM rider management situation absolutely mind-boggling, and it's only going to get worse because Fernandez will almost certainly be hung out to dry if Acosta comes through again next year, which is likely, given he's fast right now and the class is going to be weaker next year at the top level. You'd think, with the only real big-name contender next year likely to be either Ayagura or Aaron Canet. And Canet's not even won a Moto2 race yet. He's good, but he's not won a Moto2 race just yet, unfortunately. Yeah, it's a confusing situation. Much like the Max Racing team in that one. Justice, I think, was rightly served on that one. Right, that'll do it for episode 397 of Motorsport 101. We'll be back next time around MotoGP-wise. Motegi this weekend. Fingers crossed we have a race there. We'll have to wait and see, but let's be honest here, the race doesn't really matter. Let's hope the people of Japan can get through this as best they can. We'll see if we get a race on. But what's guaranteed is our next episode 398, which we'll be recording next up, and it'll be at IndyCar 2022 season preview. We go up and down the grid. We evaluate teams, drivers, their futures.
Hold on a minute. Oh. Our season preview.
Review.
Oh, yes, right. I was about to say, you know what? I'm going to go back in future. I'm going to say, you know what? Will Power is going to win this championship. I know it doesn't look all that.
Consistency alone.
You reckon?
Make myself hundreds and hundreds of dollars.
Maybe only one win on the year. You know, just to make sure of it.
Just a thought.
Just a thought.
Season review.
Yes.
Next time on Motorsport 101.
That is indeed.
Motorsport101.com.
Yep, you got it. And as you can find us one more time, YouTube, Facebook, Motorsport 101, patreon.com if you want to back us financially on there, patreon.com/Motorsport 101. Our personal handles, Twitter-wise, at Harrison101HD, at RJ O'Connell, and at CBuckley917. All of our content, as said, motorsport101.com. Hit us up on there. Until next time, I've been Dre Harrison, they've been RJ O'Connell, and Cam Buckley. Sayonara.
Later, y'all.
Don't grab onto a moving motorcycle unless you're on the motorcycle.
That goes for you too, Fabio.
Oh, God.